Hello, everyone, and welcome. I am so excited to be here with you tonight and showing you sort of that next level of pre-vocational planning. I know some of you have joined this discussion for the first few webinars, and if you are new, welcome. And those of you that have joined, I hope you continue to learn and enjoy the discussion with us. So a little bit about me. I am Angela Mahoney, and I have been a special educator for over 18 years. It is truly a passion of mine. I really enjoy focusing on life skills, transition planning, as well as really building confidence in all to really prepare for just a very successful future. I had begun my career in 2001. I had taken a job as a work skills teacher in a private school setting. When I was in this environment, I had really started to create a structure that helped me support pre-planning for the middle school and high school students that I was helping to prepare for employment. Students in my classroom were going off campus and were practicing vocational jobs in environments like retail, such as TJ Maxx, or they were going to grocery stores and practicing food service. And I had found they were coming back a little anxious or feeling unprepared. So it's when I really started to think, how can I better help all of these individuals have that foundation where they'll have less anxiety and a greater skill set? So again, currently I've really taken what I had created in my classroom in 2001 to now to really helping people around the world create these highly engaged transition plans that really do mix sort of the hands-on as well as data and reflection opportunities as one to create that whole individual for that spark for successful employment. The program that I had ultimately created out of my classroom is called I Can Work, which has been published by Therapro and has brought you here today. This is a career readiness curriculum that is really designed to integrate communication skills, those hands-on pre-vocational skills in a variety of areas such as job readiness, clerical, retail, food service, and grocery. This will be something I'll be using as reference and as a tool in my toolbox, but a lot of what we'll speak to tonight would be something you could utilize outside of the I Can Work program. It's going to be a variety of ideas and suggestions. This is just one resource that I utilize in conjunction with all the things I'm going to talk to you about tonight. Tonight's focus will be on Module 1, Job Readiness. I'd like to do a little review of really what should you have established every month that you're working on these hard skills. So you're going to see a little bit of, okay, how do I set up the room? What should be my routine? How am I tracking some data? Because job readiness skills are more those soft skills, and that's what we're going to want to make sure we're implementing in conjunction with the hands-on. Additionally, I'll focus on really looking at clerical skills and to pair those with the job readiness and what that looks like. If at any point there are questions, please feel free to ask. I tend to move quickly. I get super excited. This is a topic I really love to talk about. So if something sticks out or it doesn't make sense or you want to share or add a suggestion, please feel free to do so at any time. As you saw in your handouts, I really found and wanted everyone to have something that really showed an overview of the 12 months. I think at times we move at a pace where we forget all that we're really doing, right? And all the points that we want to get to. So I wanted to make sure you could see a little overview of, all right, what would a 12-month program look like? And as you can see here, I wanted to just outline some suggestions. Month 1, focusing on those foundation of job readiness. What is this time card, a little bit about the individual you're working with, getting an idea of how to establish those routines, and then really getting into, okay, now month 2 clerical. The month 3, we're going to do some retail and showing that variety, getting into some module stations and then coming back to clerical. Then again, the retail and food service. So you can see you're really trying to revisit the things that are introduced once, but also have variety and keep it moving where it's not all the same hands-on task. Because ultimately, we want to find at the end of our 12 months, what did you enjoy as an individual and what really was challenging and how can we grow from there? Tonight, specifically after we talk about the job readiness component, we'll really break down clerical skills for 4 weeks. I really want to show you some ways that you can look at day 1, what's a nice warm-up, what's a hands-on thing we can do, and then how do we reflect and really build on that foundation. So really, we all know this, and although it says teacher, and I know there's a variety of educators here, the work you do is really, truly so important. And I really do believe that our role as educators in any environment you're in helping someone is to try and find out, how do I help that individual grow, feel value, and success? It's not going to always be easy. It's going to look different, as we all know, for different individuals. But that is our challenge. And I think at times that's what drives many of us, because when you do get through and you see that growth and that person feel successful, it's just a game changer. So before, again, getting into that clerical component, which I'll really spend a lot of time on, I just want to do a little refresher, because again, that job readiness and that routine piece is critical. And so although the hands-on component you're introducing each month is different, you're going to want your job readiness and your vocational sort of like soft skills, I apologize, to be solidified and consistent. So here are some steps I suggest, and I'm going to break them down into 6 steps for the pre-setup. So the first one, when you're working, I recommend when you're setting up a workspace, if you're working with a large group, to really have the individuals facing each other but working in their own space. You'll see as we move forward, there's a little bit of organization with the materials being used. So it's a really nice thing to have everybody sort of have their own work area, but still be face-to-face and sort of engaged as a whole if possible. But they're not going to work as much with coworkers at this time yet. This is a nice little example of something that you could receive with the I Can Work program, just to really show what would I need to order, what would I want to have on hand prior to implementing clerical skills. So it gives you a nice idea of things you could order, what materials you might need. You want to get address labels, you'll want some envelope sealer, business size envelopes, and things like that, just to help you feel extra prepared. You also want to make sure you designate a workspace. It's really important to have a space where students know each time that they come in, this is where I go to locate, my portfolio, this is where the job expectation posters are, this is like that routine where I get my job tag, just to keep it consistent so that they can ultimately be as independent as possible in that pre-vocational work environment. Because ultimately our goal is to create independence, obviously generalized and in different work environments. Additionally, continuing to designate a time card space and use time cards consistently. I recommend having a visual, really showing what goes on that first line, what would be on the second, having a digital time clock so that you can see what the time is easily, note it on the time card. Time cards are a great way to reinforce so many skills. I have found when working with individuals, just the task of signing in creates a different shift in the feeling of what the work will be. All of a sudden they change, they rise to the challenge because now it is time to work. So it's a really nice way to say, all right, you've clocked in, let's get started. And then when you clock out, let's talk about it. Or you could make it a math lesson at the end. How much time elapsed? How much money would you earn if you worked this much in a week? You could work on date, first, last name. So time cards are really a nice way, again, to start the session and end it, and also solidify and strengthen those life skills. I would also recommend really having the vocabulary exposure. Really make whatever focus it is that week or that month, and specifically here clerical words, rich around your vocational environment. The exposure to these vocabulary words really does help decrease the anxiety when students are presented with these materials in the regular workforce. By seeing ahead of time what envelope sealer is, or understanding labels or stapler, then when presented with that task or that request in the workplace, there's less anxiety because the word is known. They can visualize that they've seen it. So vocabulary is really huge, and I think it's important to make sure things are labeled, the words are used often, and the exposure is there. Some words and vocabulary that we're going to focus on tonight are related to those clerical skills. Again, they may seem simple, but it's surprising at times we assume that things are known in this area, but really to elementary, middle school, even high schoolers, they haven't utilized these materials yet. So it is nice to really take the time, label things, explain them, expose them, and then continue to practice that. And so there's a comfortability. Some fun ways to really engage, vocabulary or to have those word walls. I found when doing worksheets, the word walls have been very helpful because students will go up and if there's a word they don't know how to spell or something that's new, they can take that visual, bring it back to their work area and independently fill in those vocabulary words. Again, encouraging independence, especially around work-related tasks and language. Another fun way to really engage in vocabulary and exposure is with memory games. I had just taken the vocabulary words I was working on, put them on colored paper, laminated them, cut them out, and ended up creating a fun way to play with students where we would just flip over cards. And it was so neat because I would hear them being like, stapler, coworker, not a match, right? Or labels and, folding jig, not a match, or they would get a match and be so excited. And so to hear even just the repetition of those words and pairing them with visuals, I could tell it was starting to sink in and it was exciting to see. So this is just another suggestion for really any time that you're introducing something new, especially in the world of work readiness, try to make it hands-on engaging and just see that spark kind of connect. It's really pretty neat. Another fun way that I've really worked on solidifying visuals with hands-on as well as those vocabulary tools is bingo. I took all the vocabulary words that we were working on with the mixed modules, made these little cards, and I'm telling you, every week it's so fun to play bingo. The students look forward to it. And again, they're hearing me say, oh, matching socks, hangers, I'm talking about supervisors, coworkers, and I can hear them seeking on the card, okay, supervisor, supervisor, I got it. And it really is just another way to make the learning fun, to expose everyone to those vocabulary words, as well as hopefully create a foundation of understanding and confidence in a variety of areas. Another important step when you're creating just that foundation space that is going to be used every week with different hands-on tasks is creating a space where you can really state the module, state the theme. So here you can see module 1, clerical, and really lay out your plan for the week. I know that my students really appreciated knowing today or this week, this is what we're going to work on. And we would really have a nice plan. So I think it's important, and it also helps showing the students what they're going to focus on and the things they can do. I know here you're seeing this week students will. Currently in my classroom, we've really shifted to doing more I can statements. So if you wanted to even reword it to be, I can use a time card to practice signature, time and date, I can complete an all about me inventory, I can fold in thirds. Those are phenomenal statements that just build confidence, as well as outline the plan, and personally kept me quite organized. I found that helpful. In this space, I also utilized a space to keep all my lesson plans. Again, utilizing that tool of the I Can Work program, each week comes with lesson plans, work area visuals, as well as acceptable and unacceptable visuals that I'll show you in a bit. It's a great space to just keep all those items in one little bin per individual underneath the module and the theme, and you just grab them and go for those work sessions. And then lastly, who doesn't love a little praise, right? It's always so nice to point out who is doing what well and in what way. So create a way to reinforce with an award, acknowledgement, a professional of the month board, some way to show this individual really did a nice job doing this month and really recognize them. Similar to an employee of the month board at any workplace, there is something that really reinforces and builds up those, again, confidence and independence skills when you feel like you've been seen. I would just see students light up when I would point out things they did well related to their hard work for the week or for the month. And it was really a nice opportunity to point those things out. And it doesn't always have to be extreme. It can be a small thing that you know someone specifically has been working on that you're going to take the time to point out and point out to everyone. And it's nice for coworkers and for other students to be proud of that person and to recognize them as well. Again, I think we all know this. It's really not just about the job itself or learning one skill in a environment that's very, private or sort of, focused one-on-one. It's really the exposure and the practice that will really lead to greater confidence and independence. So tonight, again, I had mentioned it briefly, but ultimately this vocational plan is really a mix of hard skills and soft skills. We couldn't really just talk about one or the other. They're all integrated in order to make, that individual successful or to support that successful future. So here I liked how on zipjob.com, it really showed kind of the comparison. So when we look at hard skills, we know that they're specific, they're quantifiable. You really need to know how to do the task specifically to be successful. An example would be working at TJ Maxx. If you are boxing and sizing shoes, you need to know how to do the hard skill of placing the shoes in the box and where to size them. That is necessary for success. Additionally, a hard skill is something that would be demonstrated through evidence. We would see the shoes boxed successfully. Things that are related to that in here are showing sort of those programming skills, computer skills, but hard skills can be anything that is hands-on and has actual tangible results. Whereas our soft skills are a little trickier. They're a little harder to track and, have that data and those moments sort of shown. But again, I'll show you some ways to do that. But really, it's more proven through work style and approach. It's shown where you're left to, did the person engage properly? Well, that could be a little bit subjective, right? So it is who your coworkers are, but you're also observing, are they communicating well? Are they showing teamwork? Are there skills shining through that aren't those hard skills, but maybe more related to creativity? So ultimately looking at both skills helping to make a whole. And how do we do that? So hard skills are what? Teachable abilities, right? Or a set of skills that are easy to, is it A, master quickly, quantify, or build over time? So they are easy to quantify, and that is going to be something we're going to really focus on tonight. The hard skills of clerical tasks and how do we show that data and success of what we're exposing the individuals to and how they're doing in those areas. What's ultimately important is creating a space where you're going to track not only what you're observing as the facilitator with these vocational tasks, but also allow the individual to really track the work they've done and reflect. This is crucial because you don't want it to feel just like busy work. We all know how that feels. You need it to feel meaningful. You want the individual to be invested as best you can on their own journey and allow for that opportunity to reflect honestly. There are two formats that I recommend. I think there can either be a text version of the portfolio or a version where there's a little more of a visual support. Here you can see an example of an I Can Work form for jobs I've completed. I've used this before where individuals have either pointed to their option, circled it, used a bingo marker, a variety of ways. But with the visual there's a little more guidance for the non-readers. Again, creating a way that allows all learners to be a part of the process. So I'd like to take a minute and show you a video related to how to set these portfolios up. Again, just some examples of ways you can create workbooks or portfolios for all the individuals you're working on and what maybe could be included in those. Hello and welcome to I Can Work, brought to you by Therapro Inc. My name is Angela Mahoney and I'm the author of I Can Work. I Can Work is a 5-modular based curriculum designed to integrate hands-on learning paired with communication skills to help all individuals create a strong foundation for vocational success. Today we're going to be talking about student portfolios. What I'd like to show you are some variety of ways you can create portfolios to track successful completion of tasks, have all that important data in one place, as well as student reflection. One version of a portfolio you can create is a text version. These worksheets can be found in the I Can Work curriculum, purchased at Therapro.com. What you would begin with is a manila folder per student, and you would determine are they a text or a picture version student and user. This is an example of a text version. You can see here it has jobs I've completed, as well as date, a space for the job, and an opportunity to reflect. This is meant for the individual to collect at the end of their task or their employment, remove from their bin or their location, and independently fill in. So you have an example on the side of how to act like a professional, and you would include professional statements about the job, as well as reminders on how to act like a professional. Additionally, in this portfolio, you would include word walls, as well as for each of the 5 modules, data collection processes. So each table would be included in every student's portfolio, and this would allow you to have one place for all important information related to that student's progression in one spot. If you found the text version was too high or tricky and you needed more of a picture-supported version for different students, you could create this portfolio, where you would copy the same jobs I've completed form, but in this version there's a date and job place to be filled out by the student or the facilitator, and then each reflection has a visual to support what it's expressing. Did you like your job today? Did you think your job was good, or was it frustrating? Do you feel proud? These are each examples here that individuals can either circle, bingo mark, or point to as reflection following the job. Additionally, there are visually supported professional statements. Now, please note that in both, these are differentiated lessons that can be presented at the same time. What's great about this is that one group of students can benefit from the text or the picture-supported version and still learn the same skills related to how to act like a professional and what is expected of them during that I Can Work session. What I also like about the manila folders is that students can be a part of the process. In my classroom in the past, I had them decorate, they would design theirs to be unique, and then determine what sides to staple what, and we would review what's in the portfolio. That was a really nice lesson to tie in the start of our session. You can also have them pre-made and have students learn what's in them on their first session with you. After you create these folders, create a bin or a space to have them stored, because each time students come to you, they're going to be accessing these and removing them, independently reflecting on their task and their job, and then filing them back. Additionally, if you didn't want to create or hand make portfolios, I Can Work now has pre-printed and pre-made workbooks. These workbooks are rich with information and really a nice resource to add to your toolbox. In these portfolios and workbooks, not only does it have a table of contents, it has every text version worksheet, as well as observation table, interest inventories, as well as word walls related to the entire curriculum. At the end of the workbook, it has a multitude of pages for tracking job completion. What's nice about this workbook is that after a year, if the individual you're working with is transitioning to another case manager or location, this workbook can follow that individual so that everything worked on in the foundational skills, as well as reflection, what worked, what didn't, can stay with the individual and the growth can continue. If you found the text version to be not what you're looking for or not ready or right for every individual, we also have available the picture version. Again, the All About Me is in there, allowing you to have interest inventories. It has the Who Am I picture supported, our word walls, as well as data collection. This again is a rich opportunity to track over time all the hard work students are doing, as well as show progression, what has worked and what has not. Again, student reflection and tracking of data completed towards work goals is critical with transition planning. And all the hard work you're doing and working with individuals for can really be shown in these student portfolios. Please remember, every little bit that you're doing matters and counts on this path to vocational success for all. Please continue to check out I Can Work Therapro on Facebook and follow for weekly updates. Thank you for all that you do. So as you can see, It really is so important to create some way, and it can look like anything. You know, you can create your own workbook portfolio. Please keep in mind, I'm just giving you examples of toolbox, you know, a tool I have utilized with I Can Work in my own classroom. But this is something that you can create in any way. Ultimately, again, you want to have that opportunity to track it all and have that information readily accessible, because I know the hard work that you all are doing. I've been doing it for 18 years. So again, if you can really have a way to show what you are working on consistently, it's just a rich, data-focused, driven module and program. So here you can see, now we're going to really get into sort of more the clerical observation piece. So I will show you as we move forward a way to really utilize this table and track what was completed correctly, looking at number of cues needed, were adaptations needed, are the individuals following left to right sequence, as well as what tasks were needed or steps for this task. How much time did it take? These are all important parts for data collection. So now let's see. So again, you know, I just a little visual. I can't help myself. It's the teacher in me. We all know this. Everyone's growth looks different, right? So someone's going to look differently on the outside with the small amount of growth, but other people are going to flourish, and the foundation work that is done is not seen, but we know that that foundation work is there and that the roots are rich and strong and really solidified. So again, let's now talk really what is differentiation, because one thing I have found on my journey is that we know this, not one learner is the same, right? Not one individual, not one student. So how do we take the time to really know the learner we're helping, assess them, adjust what we're giving, really question what strategies and things we're utilizing and what curriculum we're utilizing to introduce and support the growth for those students. What I'm hoping tonight is you'll see some ways that you can really differentiate, at least in 2 levels, to start that process to access and give information to a variety of learners. So one way is to have a level that is text, but also a level that is picture supported. So here you can see an example of the same lesson regarding who am I, just a topic related to anybody in the work environment. It can be any job you see, but you're allowing individuals to fill in sentences, right, and utilize their own free thought with just writing those sentences, their questions, their answers, or you're supporting those that maybe aren't writers to circle answers and engage in the learning and the conversation. But what's nice is that the same topic is introduced to the whole group. I think that is truly the key, is to the same topic is to take that time to think, instead of changing and having a small group here or a small group there, I want us all to be a part of the conversation so we can learn from each other, because everybody has something to contribute with their prior knowledge or what they've seen in the community or an idea they have to the whole when we really are looking at vocational planning. Some other ways that I really enjoy showing what is it like in the real world and really engaging in conversation is through video modeling and the use of YouTube. I've really tried to utilize this as a small warm-up pretty much each time that I work on vocational skills. Whether you take 2 minutes or 5 minutes, take that time to really show a little video of what it's like to be in the area that you're focusing on for that day. So again, just back to YouTube a bit. I'm not sure if you saw the text or picture version. I know you have it in the handouts. That's just a little example of same lesson 2 ways. But then getting back into video modeling, you know, again, just utilizing those videos to really show targeted desired behaviors, self-modeling, imitation, and observational learning. Again, I'm a visual learner. I really do go to YouTube myself to learn how to do different things. So I think this is truly important, especially with this generation of learners, to really get them focused. It kind of engages, it's visual, and it's a nice way to really warm up that next, you know, vocational task or time. Something else I really utilize a lot in my programming and times when I'm introducing new jobs or ideas is something called like a KWL. So what do I want to know? What do I know? And what have I really learned? So whole group or individual, it's taking those times to say, what do you know about working in an office setting? And what is it you want to know? But you're going to pause there and introduce the skills, maybe watch a video, do different things, and then come back to what did you learn? And this is such a rich opportunity, again, to challenge the individual to grow. What did you want to know, and did you learn more about it? And now that you know more about it, do you want to take it further, or is it something you're feeling like, no, this really isn't a fit for me, let me explore somewhere else? Ultimately, our goal is to spark interest. We want individuals to feel like, yes, this is where I want to go further, or I really liked doing that, or I want to know more about this job, so that we as facilitators can encourage that growth, especially at an earlier age. Because I do feel the younger and the earlier we're starting the conversation, the greater success students will have on their path to employment. Again, looking at differentiation, initially I was saying you could do the chart individually, but another way to do it is whole group. Put it on the board, everybody jots down what they know, what do they want to know, and then you meet again and review. So the pressure of writing and reading is eliminated, but you're really creating a rich learning environment, and peers are modeling for peers and sharing what they know. Another way to really encourage hands-on learning, practice opportunities, as well as differentiation is through role playing. I really, really enjoy this resource, which is why I included it as a handout again for those that didn't attend the last webinar, because I loved the way through CIRC that they really broke down what role playing is. Again, role playing can be a little awkward, but what's nice about it is that in a safe environment with individuals that are respecting that individual, each other, and with you facilitating it, hopefully the feeling of anxiety and worry can be worked out and practiced in that safe place. The cooperative group learning, the role modeling, and things that really come from those role-playing opportunities is really neat to see. Again, the advantages are really just that immediate application. You're really challenging individuals to sort of make a decision or to try something new. You're using that classroom setting as a safe space. It's completely irrelevant. We're talking about maybe working, with coworkers, so you're practicing how to communicate with coworkers. You're also engaging students to really have that higher order thinking. They're applying this feeling of, okay, this is uncomfortable, but here's how I can do this better, and it really sticks. Those feelings of sort of nervousness but then challenge, they resonate with us, right? They resonate with everybody. So again, using these useful scenarios to really show how to respond, I think ultimately sticks with individuals and helps them when they then generalize into the real world. Again, some steps and tips just for using it. You really want it to be relevant. If you're working on clerical skills, apply it to working in an office setting, or needing more work materials, or being in an office and somebody's frustrated that you use their things, or what have you. You don't want to give the task too much time. I think what's important to remember is that the videos, the role playing, even the hands-on tasks, we want to keep it to about a 30 to 45-minute time frame, because we don't want to frustrate the learner. I don't want anybody to feel like preparing for employment is frustrating. We want to keep it as light and fun and positive as possible, so that the reflection and how that individual feels about what we're doing can actually feel accurate and important, where it's not related to frustration. It's a fine line, and I find keeping it, again, to that 30, 45-minute time frame keeps it really feeling light, challenging, but also positive. So again, we know this, right, friends? Students are not adults. I get it, right? I want them to grow, and I see them as growing, but ultimately they really do need help. And I do even still to this day as a 40-year-old woman, right? I mean, again, time management, study skills, prioritizing tasks, character development. Again, instead of assuming that they are immature, irresponsible, we just know we're here to help you. We're here to help you be your best self. And when you are in elementary, middle school, and high school, that's the time where we are here to help you know that help is okay. And we're here to help you problem solve those pieces so ultimately you can be your best self. All right, so let's get a little more into the nitty gritty. Let's really look a little bit at, okay, if I'm doing clerical, I'm in month 2, what does week 1 look like? You've already done your month 1, you've introduced time card, who am I, all about me, I know how to enter the classroom. Now let's get into sort of those hard skill focused tasks. So again, looking at this breakdown, 2 days a week is recommended, 30 to 45 minutes a week. It's a little vocational vitamin. Again, I don't want you to feel like you have to do hours upon hours, no matter what age you're working with. Those little bits consistently over time really do build a strong foundation. So here's a suggestion, 5-minute warm up on day 1. Let's take a minute as a group to do the KWL. What is it like working in an office setting? What do I know and what do I want to know? And then take a minute to show a video I had recommended here. It's a great little video about an office clerk career. You can utilize this link here and hopefully find that helpful to then tie in to them practicing folding in thirds. So for this first week, for those 2 days, the hands-on task is going to be just practicing folding papers in thirds when preparing for a mailing. And then ultimately each day you want to continue to create those opportunities to reflect. Some individuals are not going to enjoy the hands-on task of folding in thirds. Others may find, wow, this is so relaxing, the repetition, I enjoy this. So again, you're going to have some fluctuation, which is why that reflection opportunity, 5 to 10 minutes at the end, is really important in helping create the next steps for that individual. What I like when presenting a work area with whatever task you're working on is sort of a way to set it up. I think it's important to have structure and sort of organization for anyone. You want your work area to be neat and to flow so that you can be as organized, systematic, and consistent as possible for greater success. So this is an example of a way to set up a work area when you're working on folding papers in thirds. It's always nice to have a visual, and I'll show you that a little bit more. It's also important to have sort of that center workspace designated for where the hands-on materials happen. To the left, you want to have the paper, and then you want the finished product to go into a bin because at the end, you are going to review and compare to that visual with the individual. Did this one look right? Is this acceptable or is this a little off and unacceptable? So that ultimately they are growing and looking at what is expected. So here's an example, and it doesn't have to be an extreme one, but you can see the acceptable folding in thirds is very neat, it's lined up, the edges aren't off. But the unacceptable one are a little off. And you can really just take that visual and compare and say, does this look acceptable or unacceptable? And you would be so surprised with how many students quickly recognize, oh, I could have done that one a little better, or that is a little off, or you're right, that isn't acceptable. And it's a neat process, whether you're reviewing 5 completed or 30, that student then owns, which one do you think this is? What's off a bit? So again, don't discount taking the time to really look at how did you do and what can we do better next time? Here are some examples of students through the years utilizing the I Can Work program with the visual of acceptable and unacceptable to really just practice folding in thirds. You can see my red work bins. I love a finished bin. I'm a sucker for, the setup. I love the red bins. I have all the work materials ready to go, and I just take each bin for every student, set it up, we fold in thirds for the week, and then I collect them again. And here you can see some nice ways to really create some jigs that are going to support really all individuals that are really trying to manipulate this task that's hands-on of folding in thirds or labeling. So what I'd like to do is show you a video related to how to make some of these jigs. When we're working in that clerical field, what do those look like? Hello and welcome. I'm Angela Mahoney, author of I Can Work, brought to you by Therapro. I Can Work is a 5-module curriculum designed to integrate communication skills with hands-on pre-vocational training in the areas of clerical, food service, retail, and grocery. Today's video will be focusing on the clerical module. In this module, individuals are asked to prepare for mailings and to build those skills through hands-on learning. With this learning can come some challenges. Today I'd like to show you 2 jigs that you can make when supporting individuals with learning how to fold paper in thirds, as well as address envelopes. In order to make these jigs, you will need the following materials. You'll need scissors, something to mark with, a letter-size paper, 2 manila envelopes, as well as a business-size envelope. So let's get started with how to create the jig for folding in thirds. You're going to take your paper first and fold it in thirds. You're then going to lay it over the folder in the section that's in the middle. You're going to take your utensil that you're going to draw with. I'm going to use a marker so it's easy to see. And you're going to just trace on either side of the paper, just so you have an idea, there you go, of where to then cut. So I took my paper that was folded in thirds, I laid it in the middle, and now after I have my lines, I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to cut on the inside of that line all the way to the center and then stop. I'm then going to cut this piece off entirely. So now you have one part done at the top, and I'm going to do the same to the bottom. So I'm going to cut on the inside, making our piece a little skinnier than the paper, all the way to the crease, just like that. And then I'm going to cut that piece off as well. Remove those parts. So it actually looks a little silly, but this is what it should look like. Now, when setting up that work area, what I would do as a teacher in my classroom was I would lay this down, I would tape it to the work area, and then that way, when the students or individuals are working, they would take their piece of paper, lay it in this designed place, take this flap over, they flap over into the middle, and then this way they can fold up, but they feel an edge of where to stop. And I found this to be a really helpful accommodation for students that were learning really how to manipulate the paper, where to push down and crease, as well as that stopping point for evenly folding it in thirds. As you can see, after it's folded, you can lift and the paper slides right off and you have a nicely folded paper. Another support that I've found very helpful when addressing envelopes is creating a framework for where to put the label. So what we'll do first is similar to the label with the paper, we're going to take our marker, place our envelope in the corner of the manila folder, and then trace where the envelope is so that the outline of the envelope is the first thing you do with your folder. So as you can see, I traced it. I'm going to cut it out. So now you have just an envelope size holder. What you're going to do next is place the envelope inside. Take your utensil again that you're going to write with, and in the center, draw a nice size rectangle. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect, just where you know the address label would go on the front of the letter. You're then going to take your scissors and you're going to cut the rectangle out. Again, making sure you leave room for the label to fit. So if you want to go a little larger, that's fine. Cut out that rectangle and you should then see that you have it like this, a space for it to go. Now, again, what I would recommend is at the work area, taping it down, leaving this able to move, so the individuals can then take the envelope, place it in, close it, and then there's a place right where the label goes. Again, it's just a nice visual support, and it helps anyone that's new to working with these materials understand how to be successful at the task at hand. And it's also a nice little support to give like a visual framework for your work area. Another tip I have, if you find students are having a hard time with recognizing where the square is, you can take a highlighter or a marker and just indicate the edge. So draw a line right around the square, and then that way, visually, it's very easy to see where the square is, where it falls, especially when labeling. As you can see, these are just two little ways you can really help all individuals prepare for employment and build that strong foundation for vocational skills for success. Please continue to follow me on I Can Work Therapro on Facebook, and please reach out with any questions at icanworktherapro.com. Thank you. So as you can see, again, I want to just share things that have been successful in my own classroom and what I have seen over, the 18 years of teaching to just really help individuals feel successful to then build to that next level of independence. So just some examples of ways to start, facilitating that support. So let's get into that same month. We're in clerical, now we're in week 2. We've practiced the folding in thirds. We're going to utilize those papers that you folded in thirds to now introduce stuffing and sealing envelopes with those same papers. So again, we're taking that KWL concept. We're going to really talk about what do we know, what do we want to know about working maybe in a mailroom, right? Let's look at what does that job entail on YouTube, and then let's practice as a group stuffing and sealing those envelopes and take that time to really reflect. Again, just an example. This is how I think it's so important to show and set up with whatever way you choose that work area. Each individual has their own space. They sign in, they use that time card, they are ready to work, and now they're going to come and they're going to practice. You want your sealer and your materials, your unsealed envelope to the side, to the left. You want the work to be in the center, the visual of what is acceptable sealing and not, and then a bin to put the finished work for the end. Create your own examples. Take those sealing envelopes, create one that is acceptable and make a visual for it, and then do one a little off and also create what that would look like so that at the end, students know what to compare to. Here's another example of students that have utilized this module and stuffing and sealing envelopes in my classroom, where they would then take those little bins. Each one had the sealer, it has the envelopes and the paper they folded, and it made it very easy for each student to take their little bin of work back to their work area and practice that next skill. Here's also an example of ways that I utilized visuals and highlighting to really help other students be more successful. Again, we're talking about differentiation, exposure, and accessibility to all learners. So if some aren't sure where to seal, the first day, maybe take a highlighter and mark where to seal. And then day 2, eliminate that mark. Or note on the data collection chart, utilize the marker for where to seal, and maybe in a year, revisit that again and note if they could do it without the marker. All of these things are just ways to show this is what we've introduced, this is the next level, and this is how we're moving to success for greater independence. Here you can see again, utilizing those bins along with the data collection table is really just a nice way to stay organized. It's one thing I found to be really important when introducing every week new materials and hands-on opportunities. And each week, what you're working with in the clerical table or the clerical module are things you're going to save and build on. So our first week we folded in thirds. Let's save those papers. The next week you're going to stuff and seal with those papers. Save those envelopes, and the next component will then be labeling those envelopes. I'm a teacher. I completely understand materials, and the cost of having those materials is something that is critical and crucial when creating these, these opportunities. So I needed a way to really utilize what I was using and continue to use it. I didn't want to just have students folding in thirds and not use all that recycled paper. So it was nice, and if you can, to create a way where what they've done once or week one builds on week two, and then that work that they've created on week two builds on week three. So there's a progression of realizing ultimately at the end, you would at one time fold in thirds, stuff and seal the envelope, and then label it. In theory, that would be one whole task, but what we're trying to do is really break it down and show the success step by step first. So again, you can see it's very routine. I like routine. I like utilizing different visuals and tasks, but the same framework. So we have our KWL. We're going to talk as a group or individually of what does it take to work in an office setting? Like, what do you know and what do you want to know? All right, let's look at a video. Let's look at people working in that environment. And now let's practice the hands-on skills and take that opportunity to reflect. Maybe labeling envelopes isn't your thing. It was frustrating. Using the sticky labels was challenging, or maybe you loved it. Again, noting, did they need the jig to lay out where they're labeling? That's okay, but maybe year one or two they need that, and your next step would be to take away the jig and see, can they label envelopes independently without support? It's all progressive and individually based. Taking that time again, lay out that work area. There's no harm in taking the time to really lay it out for success so that ultimately your first goal is just to track, is what you labeled acceptable or unacceptable? Giving the students that visual to show and compare. I found it really, as I mentioned before, critical to engage the student in seeing, do you think this looks right? Or do you think this is a little off and we could do this differently next time? I think there is no harm and only success in that idea of keeping and engaging the individual in the process. It's why I highly recommend reflection each time, because again, nobody wants to just do busy work. We want to know that it is meaningful, rich work that is going to help us grow as people. So you're really just allowing everybody to have that opportunity and that voice. Again, here's just some examples. I love to show off my classroom as best I can. I loved the opportunity to have students really take their work and compare it. I had some students that would take their envelopes and place it on literally each one. Is it acceptable or unacceptable? And we would look at that together. And then again, you can see my red bins. Each student had a bin to take. It had the labels, the envelopes, and the visual for acceptable, unacceptable, and really created an environment that allowed, that independent growth. Here are some more examples. I was fortunate in my work environment to outsource some outside mailings. So here you can see the jig I created was off-centered because the job we were assigned was to put labels kind of to the side in the right-hand corner on these flyers. So I created a jig, I highlighted where the label goes, created that work area, and then that allowed for the student to be as independent as possible and really apply that skill of addressing labels and envelopes to now a real job that we were hired to complete. So now we're into month 2, still focusing on clerical, but we're on week 4. Again, you're noticing that routine. We've got now a KWL. What do we know about interviewing for a job, but what do we want to know? What is coming up? What are people thinking about? And again, middle school, your KWL will look differently than a high school conversation. And we know this. It might even look differently depending on the group you're working with, which is why the differentiation and the opportunity for all to either do it individually or as a group is absolutely critical. And only you can know how to differentiate that for your learners. All I want and hope to do is to give you ideas and suggestions to then take back to your environment and really just facilitate and hopefully feel excited and encouraged to try these new things. So here I have a great link for job interviewing tips for teens. Again, there's no harm in starting the exposure process and the conversation earlier. We know this. We know that all teens are in dire need of job interview tips. So anytime you can encourage and reinforce those skills in that conversation, the better. Now we're going to practice with clerical filing and data entry, hands-on learning, and then again reflect. Here's an example of an organized workspace. With the I Can Work program, there are pre-printed zip codes as well as word task cards that you can practice filing with or create your own. I want to make sure everyone understands, although I reference I Can Work, these are things you can do with any materials. Some are pre-made with I Can Work, and my hope was to make it differentiated and easily accessible and ready to kind of use. But again, these are just ideas, suggestions, and things I've used in my own work and classroom. Utilizing that acceptable, unacceptable visual, which you can take pictures of and create on your own, or utilize the ones that are pre-created in I Can Work. And then have those filing systems just set up for the students to take and go. So here you can see I utilized just those filing holders, the cards. I labeled them with the the zip code numbers, pre-printed the cards, and students were practicing filing by zip code as one example. Other ideas, not just from zip codes, you can do single numbers if zip codes are too challenging. You can also do words and letters. You can really utilize anything you like to practice filing in order to really build that skill of finding the designated tab, filing behind, and showing, did you neatly do it? Is it acceptable? Or did you mix all the cards in one space? And how can we learn from that? So let's really talk about the next steps. We saw 1 month of clerical skills. I really wanted to show you some warm-ups, some hands-on opportunities, as well as some reflection times. But what else can you do in your classroom or when working with students? One way is to really practice typing sight words. I absolutely loved this vocational opportunity because not only did I have students practice turning on the computer, opening whatever Word program we were using, whether it was Google Classroom, Google Docs, Word, and then opening a new document, saving it, and typing their words. I thought this was just such a great way to reinforce spelling, sight word recognition, as well as ultimately word processing. Another great way to help students practice is really to utilize this great resource online for data entry lessons. It's called thepracticetest.com, and you can go on and practice and find a variety of ways to really introduce and reinforce data entry lessons and drills. Again, if you have individuals that have mastered the filing of the actual cards, take it to the next level. This is that differentiation, right? We're growing with the individual. We've shown the data of success. We've shown that they could file successfully with the supports in place. Now let's challenge. You can also take work that they've already now labeled and create things where you're collating. Take that completed work and say, okay, pick up a card. I want you to count out 6, collate them correctly, put them in the finish bin. Now you're going to collate 4. Try that. So again, multi-step and fine motor manipulation. The binder clips are not easy, counting one-to-one correspondence, and keeping it neat. So your expectation is that multi-step process, but also independently. Take papers and little labels and have them fold in half. We've worked on folding in thirds. Let's take the opportunity to now fold papers in half and seal them. I know in the past, individuals and other companies have hired my classroom to really work on mailings where they were folding them in half and just sealing them for mailings. So I took that opportunity to pre-introduce the skill and then ultimately take on the job, and they were very successful with that task. You can also challenge individuals to do all steps at once. I had students that I would write the task for the day, and I would expect not just folding in thirds, fold, stuff, seal for 15 minutes, and let's see how well you did. This challenge was awesome. I had students that had mastered those 3 steps independently, and it was really nice to see them generalize all of the steps as one and track that for the next level. You can also create things where you're laying out, okay, let's package these materials. We've introduced the vocabulary words of envelopes, paper clips, pencils. All right, let's take this and really see if you can package these number of items successfully. Again, some are in writing form and some have picture supports. You can see one version, I just wrote what should go in each bag. Other versions, I put visuals for how many go in each bin. Additionally, a simple 1 through 10 helps students that need support with that one-to-one correspondence so they can actually count out 2 pencils, 4 paper clips, 3 envelopes, and it really makes a difference. Again, ultimately, noting on your data collection charts what you're doing when will really help show we started here, we used this jig, it took this much time, but in a year's time or 6 months or 2 months later, we eliminated that and this is the success we had. Here I truly, truly believe, and you can see, in the importance of working with a coworker. We all know this to be true in any work environment. The communication component paired with flexibility, listening, right, and understanding are critical for success in any work environment. So any opportunity we can create to facilitate communicating in a calm way, asking for more, responding in a way of, here you go, here is more. All those skills are so important for that success as a whole. Even waiting for your coworker to complete the task can be something students need to work on, or not interjecting to fix the work. There are a multitude of things that can be worked on in this coworker partnered opportunity. So again, I just took those same bags, same request cards of I need 2 pencils, I need 5 paper clips, and ask the individuals to request the materials from their coworker. So you're taking that skill and you are generalizing it. You're challenging them to go higher and beyond. And again, even this, I created 5 different bins and had just students pick cards. So let's say a student picked number 3. Okay, friend, today you're going to fold in thirds. That's bin number 3. If they picked number 5, today you're going to file by word or do data entry. If you pick number 1, you're going to stuff and seal envelopes. It just created a way to keep it light, engaging, and different. Because the one thing we don't want is boring and uninvested students, right? We want them to feel excited to be successful, excited to try new things, and excited to really show their best selves. Here I had a student that would help me prepare for my I Can Work sessions. He had already been going off campus. He was really moving through the program well. So as an in-house job, he became actually my assistant. So here he's creating work bins for my 5 students that are coming to the next session. And it was really a nice opportunity to see this individual challenge himself to be organized, focused, and really help me assist others. Another example of that next level is having an individual be your assistant. I am telling you, I have never seen such growth and excitement in friends of mine that I say to them, today you are the teacher. I really need your help. And there's something about putting on that job tag that labels them as the assistant or whatever role you're giving them, and they just rise to the challenge. Their shoulders are higher, they feel confident, and whether it's putting the numbers 1 through 10 on your board or reviewing your sight words or putting what the module is, the little things matter, as I know you all know. Again, I'm just reiterating things that have been successful in my classroom that I hope you take away as inspiration. Another fun way to really keep it, with variety, engaging, is to create sort of that grab a job bin. If you have students that are working on in-house jobs, instead of every day it being the same or every week, or, consequently students always pick the same job, challenge them, shuffle them up. They can't see what they are. Pick a job and try it just for the day. Take that opportunity to reflect with them at the end. Did you like laminating? Did you like restocking the supply bins? Was recycling more your thing? Tell me why or why not, so that over time we can see a pattern of things you enjoy or maybe don't enjoy. So where do we take all of this? We have a lot of pieces, right? We have our soft skills, our hard skills, our hands-on learning, our visuals, our differentiation. Well, what I think is important is not to introduce it only once. You really want to make sure you're taking what's been introduced, but you are going back to it. It's not just folding in thirds one time. We absolutely have to reintroduce it a few times, especially if it's a dislike, just to make sure year to year as the individual grows that they get the chance to reflect on it again. So one great way is through task boxes. These are just compartments that have materials for a certain activity. They're very short and structured, and they really do have a mix of familiarity and challenge, right? I want it to be things that the individuals have already tried, and your hope is that they can independently now do it within this task box expectation. You know, they really encourage independence. Your hope is that they need minimal or no guidance. It's really, really a nice way to build that sequencing skill-based learning, and then also presents in a step-by-step presentation so that, again, allows the student to see the expectation and hopefully be independent in it. You want task boxes to really have a nice step-by-step visual. You want it to show with the bin, in this task I will. It's very clearly labeled, the materials are in the bin, and you're really showing this is the expectation. So what I'd like to do is just show you a small way to create a task box in this video of how to file by word, just to give you an example of one way to take the clerical task of filing and make it into a task box. Hey everybody, task box time. I'm excited to share with you today's task box. It comes from the second module, Clerical, in the I Can Work program, where students were learning how to file different word-related cards. So I have cards that you can print out from the module, right from the CD, and they have a variety of words such as coworkers, food service, grocery, retail, as well as supervisor. So what I did was I got a Tupperware, gave it a number, can be any number in your list, and also included on the lid the many steps to complete. As you can see, they're going to take out the bin, look at what the name is, and the vocabulary word, find the envelope, there's a bunch in the bin, that match with that word, and then file that word into the envelope. Once they're done with all the words that you have cut out, they can then take the bin and place it in the finished bin. So not only does this task box reinforce the filing, the matching, the one-to-one correspondence skills, it's building independence as well as helping to create that foundation awareness of all work-related words, which ultimately I truly believe helps build that successful foundation for all. All right, more task boxes to come. Thank you for watching. So again, as you can see, it's really not something that takes an ultimate, like, an extreme amount of time, but it is a nice bin to have, a resource to have, and an opportunity to just show that generalization and the carryover. Just as with our clerical data and our job readiness and anything you're doing vocationally related, make sure you're tracking that task box data time. Include the date, how many task boxes were completed, how many they did anything stand out, what were strengths and challenges. Lots of ideas with I Can Work. You can create task boxes in general with these ideas. In the area of clerical, you can do a task box for folding paper in thirds, addressing envelopes, filing alphabetically. You can create task boxes in the retail area of folding shirts, sizing shoes, folding towels. When we look at food service, sorting silverware, packaging place settings, and sorting coins, and then also in the area of grocery, sorting grocery items, jobs in a grocery store, and bagging groceries. Again, tons of ways to reinforce all that I know you are introducing and teaching daily. So I want to end with this poll question of, do you really feel like at the end of this, your pre-vocational toolbox has really grown with some ideas to really help all individuals find their spark for that successful employment? And I want to reiterate, my idea is not to present things that are brand new or this concept of, wow, it's more, oh my goodness, yes, I can differentiate this way. I can spark someone this way. I can try it a different way, or maybe just have more order to it. So that really excites me that you're continuing to build your toolbox, because we all know that is the key for society, truly, right? I mean, Dr. Grandin is truly someone I idolize and respect, because from the beginning of her journey, she has expressed that really, no matter who you are, everyone can contribute to society, right? Or be a contributing member of a community. And what we are all trying to do is give meaning to every person we're supporting, encouraging, and teaching, right? That is our goal. We want to see them be their best selves. And at times, we move so quickly in this fast pace that we don't necessarily have a plan. And I really just wanted to take a chance and an opportunity to show you you can have a plan and organize all you're doing and build these skills in a variety of ways, and also have the individual along for the journey. So please continue to join me. There's 2 more sessions coming up where I'm really going to break down the next module 3, talking about retail tasks. And then in session 5, I'm going to talk about food service and grocery. This is just a fun way to really start the conversation, spark some ideas, and keep it going. Because again, what you're doing is so critical. I hope to just add to the work you're doing. If you haven't already joined me for the other 2 sessions, these webinars are archived on therapro.com. You can check out, where do I start? Sort of what is that vocational process? And then what does Module 1, job readiness, really look for? I really took the time to break it down and make sure, step by step, anybody that's interested in where do I begin or how do I strengthen what I'm doing, what do I do next? Again, I can't thank you enough for being here. It means the world to me that you are here and invested and really changing and helping so many find their spark for employment. Please be sure to just follow me on LinkedIn, Angela Mahoney, as well as on Facebook. I Can Work Therapro, as we're always evolving, right? That, the model's always changing. I'm always growing. I'm always sharing new ideas. And as people use and come up with their own ideas, I share them on Facebook, and it's just a nice community to stay connected in. So thank you for your time, and I appreciate all you do, because every little bit matters on the path to employment.